Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be joined by my new friend, Lorraine Dallmeier, and she is going to blow your mind. You are literally going to be inspired just by the little chat that we have done behind the scenes here to get ready for what she is going to teach on this show. I am taking crazy notes, and you are going to absolutely love this woman and be incredibly inspired and learn so much from this show today. Lorraine, welcome to the show. Can you give everybody an introduction, share who you are, how you started out, and all about this amazing online empire that you have built?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show, April. It is amazing to be here, and I can't wait for our chat. So I'm Lorraine. I run Formula Botanica. I'm a biologist, I'm a chartered environmentalist, and I am on a mission to teach the world to formulate. So I run Formula Botanica, the online organic cosmetic formulation school, and we train people how to make their own natural skincare and hair care using botanical ingredients. And we are taking the world by storm with what we're doing at the moment. It has been phenomenal. So I've been running the school for almost 8 years now, I guess. And I have 40 staff. We have over 13,000 students and graduates. We're in 177 countries. It has been a roller coaster to get here, but it wasn't always like that. So just to give you a short intro into how I got here, I was on maternity leave with my eldest son, who will be 11 in a few weeks. And I decided that I couldn't go back to my day job anymore. I had to work for myself. You know, I'd had really good jobs, but I just couldn't handle working for other people anymore. And having listened to a few podcasts with you now, April, I think you probably know that feeling quite well. So I decided I was going to start my own business. And I was watching the BBC's Apprentice. I was sat there on the sofa with breastfeeding my son. And I was like, if these idiots can do it, then so can I. Right. So that's, I guess, where it started. And then by the time I was on my second maternity leave, I had my business up and running. I was teaching people online already. I had an app. I was teaching people how to make simple beauty products. And then I had the chance to actually buy Formula Botanica in its infancy. So it was a one-woman side hustle at that point. I was, as I said, I had my second baby with me at that point. And I thought, you know what, this could be a fun hobby project. And then I went back from maternity leave for a second time. And my employers ghosted me entirely. And so I thought, I got to make this work. And I have. So that's like a potted history of how I got to where I am today, I guess.
You know, and you said something to me before we were recording. You know, you said I went from being this, mom with just a baby on my hip to having this global empire in 100, how many different countries? It's insane.
177.
177 different countries, friends. Okay, this amazing woman has done this. And you literally have a formula, just like you teach people how to formulate natural beauty products on their own. And I want you to share your mission because I think that's incredibly important. But what you're going to share today on the podcast is the actual formula from how you went from a mom with a baby on your hip to where you are right now. But I think it's important to know that for people to know, like, why are you doing this? You shared this a bit with me before. Why are you so particularly passionate about what you teach women to do?
Well, I love formulation because it takes us right back to our roots. It's a skill that we've lost, that we've forgotten, and yet everyone used to do it. Like they've even found like fossilized face creams from Roman times. You know, this is not something new. And we can all formulate because formulation is fun, it's easy, it's empowering, and most importantly, it disrupts the mainstream beauty industry because they want you to go and buy their products. For 150 years, they've been telling us we're not good enough, we don't look right, we don't smell right, we don't conform to that blonde, stick-thin, white-teethed person that they put in all the adverts. You know, everyone is different, and we can embrace our own beauty by reclaiming that power from the beauty industry and learning how to formulate ourselves. And that is so incredibly empowering because then not only can you make your own skincare and hair care and even makeup whenever you need it, but it's also more sustainable because the beauty industry produces over 120 billion units of packaging a year. I mean, that is just staggering. And most of that ends up in landfill or in our oceans. And we can do better than that. And we can do that by learning how to formulate for ourselves and making things as and when we need them. So I am on a mission to make formulation as commonplace as cookery and teach the entire world how to do it. And thankfully, the world is very receptive, which is a good thing.
And you're doing a very good job of that. You are doing an incredible job. And so thank you for sharing that. So before we even go into these 6 steps to how you have built this online empire, in hearing these 6 steps, and I know our listeners, after they hear them, are going to be like, wow, I can absolutely do this as well. I want to point something out. You are so incredibly, deeply, fiercely, fierily passionate about what you do. And you are very clearly leading with that determination, that it's not, leading with the money because you want to build an empire to take over the world. You want to change and you want to create a transformation for women and disrupt an industry that needs to be disrupted. Yeah. And so I say that so as our listeners are listening, to understand that underneath all of these things that we're going to talk about in content marketing and all the other strategies to build literally a global empire with your online courses and your education business, that under that all is a fierce passion and conviction for what you are doing. And I think that in order to be successful, frankly, at anything, unless you just want to make a lot of money and not have a deeply purposeful company, I believe that that's a requirement. And so I just wanted to point that out to our listeners. Our listeners would pick up on that anyway. They'd be like, wow, this woman's amazing. She loves what she does. Diving into history and the history of what she's doing. So yeah, so let's transition. Let's dive into that a little bit. How on earth did you go from this mom who was kind of working, kind of decided she wanted to stay home, had an app, bought a company, having another baby, to where you are now? You literally have a formula for this as well. Talk to us about this.
So let's walk through it. Well, first of all, thank you for all those lovely things you said as well. I mean, yes, you have to drive forward with that passion, but then there are various steps that, as you say, anyone can do. And the first one for me, and I live and breathe this, so I absolutely love this, is content marketing. Now, I have been a prolific content creator since I was 15 years old, and I badgered my parents to get the internet at home. Like, we were one of the first adopters of the internet where I lived. Everyone was like, why do you have the internet? I didn't know what to write to, there weren't web pages that really had anything of use for me. But I started blogging when I was 15. I started designing websites then, and that has stuck with me ever since. So a big part of what we do is putting out content. And I call it edutainment, which is a slightly pretentious word. I mean, you're mixing education with entertainment, but it says what it says what it does on the tin, basically. And so we write, we film, we record content every single week that our followers want to read, want to listen to, want to watch. And a lot of people say to me, well, how do you know what to record? And I'm like, well, go and ask people, because they tell me what they want to know, and we put that content out there. And that has been so successful for us, because by showing up every week, it doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if I'm on holiday, it doesn't matter what's happening, that content will go out. And that means that our followers become dependent on it. They want to read it. And actually, as a result of that, we've become like a publication as well as an online school. And we get more visitors now than many of the sort of mainstream publications in our niche as well, which has been phenomenal.
So let me ask you, where do you distribute the majority of your content? I know our listeners are thinking, okay, well, they're doing this content. I know every industry is different. What are your primary social channels or content distribution channels that seem to have worked for you?
Well, social does well for us, but I have to say the main channel has been email. I mean, it's all in the list, right? And I'm sure everyone listening who wants to do this understands you have to have a list. And I started off with 300 people on my list. I now have 125,000. And we clean that list rigorously. Like we boot people off all the time because they don't open our emails. Otherwise, we'd have hundreds of thousands of people sat there. So that is the primary outlet for content, because people then sign up and they know they're going to receive value in their inbox every single week. And that is so powerful because it means they stay subscribed as well. Social is good too.
And behind the scenes, you all hear my children calling. So with that, so you guys send a weekly email?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We're thinking of making that bi-weekly, but at the moment it's just weekly. And yeah, then the rest goes out on social. I mean, our main channels, I suppose, are Instagram. I mean, we'll have over 100,000 followers by the time this episode airs, which is quite exciting. Facebook, we have big groups on Facebook. I have a big networking group there with 47,000 people, which is free. So those are the main channels, really. But email first and foremost, and then, and I suppose that's point 2 in the sort of 6-step process. It's all about the SEO as well. And I've only recently hired someone for the first time to do that. Before that, it was just me writing lots of really good content, then hiring people to write really good content. And I've always believed that rather than delving into what Google says about its algorithm, the best thing you can do is to just write top-notch content, make sure it's of a good length, and make sure people want to keep coming back to read it, basically.
So, you know, one of the things you said to me behind the scenes as well before we started recording this was that, and I think this is important for people to know, that you have been consistently hitting the pavement with content and putting content out for 7 years.
Yep.
So I think that's important for people to know that consistency is king here. And I love also how you say that you clean your list. And I think people are afraid to do that as well. You know, get people that haven't opened things off their list. I think people are really afraid to do that. And I love that you said that, because we want a vibrant list of people that are actually absorbing your content and really love what you're doing, rather than a dead list. And when people really don't, who wants to talk to people that don't want to listen? And so I love that you said that as well. But I feel like one of the important things to say here about this number 2 is that you are just out there posting, like you said, rain or shine, for 7 years. And this is organic growth, you guys. This is like, we aren't buying 100,000 people to end up on Lorraine's list. This is, you know, fully putting amazing content out there that people want to absorb, and organic growth. And so I really admire how hard you've worked at doing this. And I just want to commend you for that. People want a shortcut all the time, and it's not that you can't be successful fast, but there's much more to the iceberg underneath the water, for sure.
Absolutely. And I've seen so many people sort of try to shortcut or get bored of doing it. And then if it doesn't work within 3 months, they're like, oh, I'll do something else. And so many of the entrepreneurs who started in my sort of year group, I suppose, when I got going, they're all doing something different now. And I'm sat there going, why? And they're like, I'm really impressed you kept going with that. And I'm like, well, yeah, look at what I've achieved by just plugging away at the same thing every single day. It's been amazing.
Wow, that alone, what a great testimony, and just a great amount of encouragement, and that's exactly right. And I think that we get so afraid that maybe we aren't doing the right things, or we need a confirmation faster, and that trust in what you're doing and what you're creating, and the consistency in doing it, and that's a whole podcast episode on itself. So I just want to highlight that, and I just think that's incredibly powerful. So we talked about step number 1, and then step number 2 is just really being out there, consistently posting, SEO, you know, really diving into that. And then step number 3 is one of my favorites. In people just don't, I don't know that it's not that I think that entrepreneurs don't want to do that. They all do, but I don't necessarily believe that there are many entrepreneurs that fully understand how to fiercely protect their brand. So let's talk about number 3.
Yeah, so 3 is all about the brand. And I've created a really, really strong brand around Formula Botanica. And when I look at a lot of digital marketers online, they often bypass that step. They just go straight for the ads, the shortcut, as we said. And actually building that strong brand is something that has made the company so unshakable, so rock solid, that if something terrible happened to us, we would weather it because the brand is so strong. And I protect that brand fiercely. I have brand guidelines. I make people read them all the time. I tweak little things. The very fact that I'm sat here in a green top, in a green office, it's just all part of the brand. I live and breathe every single component of it. And that comes down to how we speak, the tone we use in the emails that go out, even in our help desk, the way we support people, the way the courses are put together, the way we show up for events. Just literally every little detail is overlooked by that brand. And people often come to me and they're like, can I say this? And I'll go, let's rejig it slightly so it looks like that. And this is the reason behind it. So I'm constantly trying to educate my team as well so that they can live and breathe that with me. Because no one can take that away from you. If your ads bomb, or if no one comes to your website, or, if something goes horribly wrong on social media, your brand is still there. And that is a thing of beauty that I think, as you said, a lot of people overlook. But yet it's the core component to growing an online empire.
Wow, that is so powerful. As I have my wave mug and my my wave wall, and it's what we do. If you guys are watching behind the scenes in the video, you have to go to the YouTube channel. You have to see Lorraine behind the scenes and see all of her green. It's fabulous. and this is an example of that. But I also love what you said with the language and the tone and the brand personality. And I think that is so incredibly important as well. So thank you for that. I love number 3. So what's number 4? What was a fourth thing? What's a fourth step in your formulation for building this online empire?
So we've got the content, we've got the distribution, we've got the brand. Step number 4 is all about the community. I mean, it's the people who sits at the heart of all of this. In some respects, they should be step number 1, but I thought let's walk through it all in sequential order. So I've built a really strong community around Formula Botanica, as has my team as well. And these are people who we know, we love. Even though we have over 13,000, almost 14,000 students and graduates, we know so many of them, and we get really excited by them because we know what they're doing. If you're watching the video, I have all of their products behind me. I sit here with them on my desk. I'm always sort of holding them up going, oh, this is so-and-so, she lives in Denmark, and this is so-and-so, she lives in India. And, the community is what makes us who we are. We wouldn't be where we are without these incredible people. And I have met so many of them over the years. I know their stories. I've become friends with so many of them as well. And they inspire me to do better as well, because they're constantly out there changing the world, being part of this global green beauty movement that we're spearheading. And they're helping us drive it forward. So to do that, we've used social media. We use Facebook groups. It sounds really simple, and it is in a way. And in the beginning, I would be in there and I would show up all the time for our students and graduates. And that was how we built this incredible heartwarming community where people are really kind and generous to each other. And that still exists today, even though we have, I think, about 10,000 students in our online classroom. It's got huge, but still that really heartwarming aspect is there. And if someone posts and says, I'm having a bad day, there are hundreds of comments from people just going, we've got your back. And most of the people who go through our courses and launch a brand go, I love the courses. I learned so much. I can formulate, you've empowered me. But oh my goodness, the community. I wouldn't have got to where I am without my sisterhood, basically, because as you can imagine, it is mostly women who go through our courses. And that has just been heartwarming and incredible to watch. So that's step number 4.
And question about that, you have both a free and, so we're talking about business modeling and structuring for our listeners. You have both a free and paid community.
That's correct. Yeah, we have a big free networking group as well, which has almost 50,000 members. And that's incredible too. And now I have a community manager, but not just that. We also have a whole team of people around the world, our student mentors, so that we have 24/7 coverage in our groups. Because otherwise, you know what it's like in groups. You have to be there to sort of support, to help, to moderate sometimes as well. And so I have staff members literally around the globe so that there is always someone on, and they have a rota, so they're going through the groups all the time. And that has been incredible, actually. So the community is everything to us.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And Facebook makes sense, a global community, Facebook makes sense. Yeah. And, it's when we talk about structure and tech and enabling what you want to do in the experience that does, truly completely make sense. Okay. So then number 5, what is the 5th step to your formulation to building a global empire?
So at this stage, you've got your ducks in a row, and now you have to start really putting yourself out into the world. And so step number 5 is very much that I've made sure that we are viewed as thought leaders in our space. And again, that can sound like quite a pretentious word. What is a thought leader? It's someone who has an opinion that other people readily take on board and follow. And we have that now. People follow us because we teach them our viewpoints and our thoughts on what natural means, on what green beauty means, on what clean beauty means. We've redefined a lot of these concepts. And we're regularly tagged in social media posts where people go, I listened to this podcast from Formula Botanica and I now understand the 3 or 4 shades of natural, and I'm going to show you, I've made my own little infographic and I finally understand these concepts and I've learnt them from these guys. And we do that thought leadership through, I have my own podcast as well called Green Beauty Conversations, which is all about green and sustainable beauty and the science and indie beauty. But I'm also constantly on summits, on podcasts, giving interviews, speaking to journalists. I am out there all the time, as is my team. And that means that people view us as the people to follow because we hold opinions on things. We share those opinions. I make sure that they're always balanced. They fit with the brand. They're very sort of rational and scientific and heartwarming and friendly and natural. And people buy into that. So you have to have opinions when you're running a business. And I see a lot of people really struggle with this because they don't want to put themselves out there. But it is, step number 5 for a reason. It's been a huge part of our growth in becoming this global empire.
That is so important. I understand that, and I think that there is a fear about not having everybody agree with you, but that's also part of the disruption and the part of leadership. And most leaders don't have everybody that loves them. I mean, that's the way it is. When we're doing work that really matters, it means it's work that's different. And to do work that's different, it means that you're probably going against the grain on the way that the commonplace has been. And so I really love that you said that. And I think that is, that's just very encouraging for some of our listeners to hear. Okay. And then step number 6, what is this final icing on the cake to bring it all together?
So following on from what I said about putting yourself out there, now you have to go and form a network. And that means getting to know people, big players, small players, any players really, people who also hold opinions and who are active in your world, in your sector. And we now have partnerships with indie beauty brands, with our graduates, with bloggers, with influencers, but also with the mainstream beauty industry. I have stood on major stages in front of the big players, the L'Oreals, the Unilevers, the Procter & Gambles, but also the indie players at the same time. And I'm trying to bring people into our world so that they understand that we're the bridge that brings everything together. So, for instance, we're the formal indie beauty partner for the world's largest cosmetic ingredients exhibition. They have 12,000 visitors a year. They tour around Europe. It's like going into 3 aircraft hangars, when you go and visit these trade shows. And we're their indie beauty partner. I have spoken at major industry events because of a lot of the work that we've done and the networking that we've done. And because of that, that's opened the door whereby people don't view Formula Botanica as Lorraine's little side hustle with her baby on her hip anymore. They view us as a big, accredited, award-winning online institution. And obviously, that's all part of the 7 years of just showing up every week and just putting yourself out there. But you have to make a network and you have to invest in that network and be kind and really give back, because it will come back to you tenfold every single time. And that's certainly what I've found over the years.
That's incredible. And so let's recap these 6 steps. And then I have one last question for you. So Lorraine's formula to build a global empire, that not just any global empire, you guys, that really matters, that's really, really making a change in this space, are your 6 steps.
Okay. Step number 1. Content creation, educate and entertain your followers at the same time. Step 2, constantly promote that content. Put it out there. Great SEO, social media outreach, but most importantly, your list. You need one. Step number 3, build a strong brand that you fiercely protect and build, and you're constantly growing it. Step number 4, create a thriving and happy community. Make sure that the people around you know that you love them, because they're your biggest assets, your biggest fans, they're everything. Step number 5, be viewed as a thought leader. Have opinions and put those opinions out there and make sure that people buy into those opinions and hear you. And step number 6, build a network. And build a strong network that you pour your love and heart into, because it will come back to you tenfold.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom. This is an amazing lesson, you guys, here that you are hearing, and I'm taking notes and listening right along with you. And so I have one last question for you. And this isn't like a set question I ask all the guests. I would love to know this answer from you. What have you learned about yourself along the way through this process? Like, what do you believe about I know I didn't even prepare you for this. It's such a deep question, right? Sorry. Like, what do you know and believe about yourself that only could have come through your tenacity, your resilience, your consistency? What have you learned about yourself in this process?
That is a great question. So before I took on Formula Botanica, I worked all over the world. I lived in multiple countries. I worked in high-powered jobs. I ran all sorts of fantastic projects, but I kept coming up against this massive glass ceiling everywhere I went. You're too young. You're too inexperienced, Lorraine. You're too scary. You're too outspoken. You're too in your face. You voice your opinions too much. I do that. And it got to the point that it started to chip away at me, because you start to internalize a lot of what you hear. And when you're constantly told you need to tone it down, you need to be less outspoken, you need to put your opinions out there less, you start to do that. And I now know that the only way, I think, for women to achieve true gender equality in the workplace is by building something like this for themselves and driving it forward. And I know myself that I am more confident and more able, and I believe in myself more than I ever have before because of the work that I've done here over the last 7 years. And no one can take that away from me. And I will never walk into a workplace ever again where someone will tell me I'm too scary, because I will eat them alive.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you're so awesome. Oh, this is the best. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared. I know our listeners, just like me, I mean, we just want to eat up everything you're giving to us, and just absorb from you. So I'm just so honored to meet you. Thank you so much for applying to be on this show and wanting to come here and share your story with this audience. It's incredibly powerful and proven. And that's what we do. We bring experts like you that have created their expertise through resilience and determination. And I'm just so glad that you're here. So how can people find you? How can they connect with you, follow you, join your formulation school if we have listeners that want to start doing their own thing but they haven't done it yet, or go and follow you to learn and watch and observe how you are building and how you're continuing to grow your empire? Where can we find you?
So we're over at formulabotanica.com, where we have a free online organic cosmetic formulation course that anyone can take. Instagram is the biggest platform for Formula Botanica as well, but I am also on Instagram and on Facebook, where you can follow me at Lorraine Dallmeier, and I talk more about the business side of things, the sustainability side of things, because that's my bag a bit more. And I just want to say thank you so much, April, for having this amazing podcast and for welcoming me onto it, because it's fantastic to talk to you, and it's a real honor to be here. So thank you.
It's such a pleasure. And Lorraine and I will be live in Clubhouse, you guys. So this is episode number 237. It will be episode number 237 when it drops. And so Lorraine and I are going to be here to talk to you, and you guys get to come and ask Lorraine all of your questions, whether it's about formulations or how she went from baby on the hip to literal global empire creator through online business. These steps work. This process works with consistency. And so we're going to be live in Clubhouse on July 28th at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Please come join us there. We'll make sure all of the links to where you can connect with us in Clubhouse are found in the show notes of this episode at sweetlifeco.com. Lorraine, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been awesome.